It has been a rough week. The wealthy stranger that hired you and your group to find a powerful magic artifact in some god's-forsaken dungeon was a complete and utter scam. He was no stranger at all to begin with, but a distant cousin of yours who had been talked into this by your mother-in-law. Both of them did not expect you to return from the quest, and so the cousin was not just unwilling to pay, but flat out broke. To make things worse, the artifact you found turned out to be the infamous and not very mysterious always damp socks. Selling them barely covered the cost of the trip. Morale was down after that, and so you decided to take a break from the group. Right after one member called Neo the Orcish Barbarian tried to split your head with an axe. You did not take that personal, this is simply his way to deal with stress. So you have traveled along the Imperial Road for 2 days since then, and taken a sharp turn into the backwoods of the northern flatlands this morning. Now the sun begins to sink, and you are in need of a place to stay for the night. According to your map, there should be a small town with an inn not much further down the road. Ah, there it is. A sign outside the largest building around reads the Plothook Inn, and so you enter. The place seems not too busy as you make your way to the bar. The barkeeper looks vaguely familiar, almost like you have seen him in a vision coming from a place far away over the ocean. He smiles at you and says, "Hello, traveler. My name is Daniel Wallace. Welcome to the Plothook Inn." Huzzah, technology. After I screwed up the intro last time, I pre-recorded it and played it live on air now. So, as I said in the intro, I'm Daniel Wallace, and this is the Plothook Inn. This is a show where me and three lovely game masters, in this case, talk about game mastering. And our topic today is going to be rule lawyers, munchkins, power gamers, and other fun people you get to know while game mastering. So I'll ask my guests to introduce themselves. Who are you? How long have you been gaming? How long have you been game mastering? And what systems do you like? What groups do you play? We'll start out on my furthest left with Scuba.
Hey, my name is Scuba Goomba. I've been gaming for about 15 years and dungeon mastering for about 10. My preferred systems are Pathfinder, Marvel Heroic, and Mutants and Masterminds.
Okay, great. Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe. I've been gaming since 1978 and game mastering probably since 1978. So you can do the math as far as how long that is. I've been playing, started out with the original Dungeons and Dragons first edition, and I actually prefer second edition, and I also like D&D Next.
So you've been game mastering for longer than I've been alive, at least. But I guess you hear that often.
Lately, yes.
Lucas.
Yeah, I'm Lucas. I'm gaming since 12 or 13 years. Beginning with GM, I have with the introduction of Shadowrun First Edition, I want to play, and so I have to game mastering to get it played.
So as you can probably hear, Lucas is a friend of mine from Germany, and excuse his English sometimes, but pretty brave of you to be.
Improving it.
And it's 9 at night in Europe, so that's why we are drinking. It's absolutely socially acceptable here by this time. So Lucas is also the colonel of my Battletech chapter, the 5th Virtus Fusiliers. And so he ordered me to have him on here. So great. Our topic, as I said, is going to be rule lawyers, munchkin, power gamers, and in that order. So as usual, we'll start with a little story time, and then maybe a little controversial statement of mine that's not necessarily my opinion, but it's there to start a conversation, hopefully. First topic, rule lawyers. Does anybody have good stories you've had to live through with rule lawyering?
I actually have one.
Great. Go ahead.
Oh, I can't even remember. Back in the 80s, I had a player that would play with me on a regular basis, and the person would, at the most inconvenient time, come up with rules that to counter the story. And, well, effectively, I had to deal with this on a regular basis, and it really got to the point of, okay, you have a rule that's going to counter this particular effect or whatever. I would actually bring out one of my books, hand it to him, and it says, find that rule. And he'd go out through there and look it up, and he'd say, oh, yeah, the rule's there. Okay, fine. I pull up my pencil, scratch it off. It says, now it's not. And we continue going.
Well played.
I also stricken a rule from a book. I think it was a spell. But I have a discussion with a rule lawyer about a quick draw holster. He wants to carry a gun, a Ruger Super Warhawk. It's a gun on his forearm with a mechanism to draw it fast. And he say there are no rule against what gun there can be carried. And my people has constitution of 6 and higher and looks like Hulk Hogan and bop. Good. I decided in the end, yeah, make it so because yeah, you are here as guest, and next week I didn't have to deal with you. So, but yeah, I didn't think someone, even Hulk Hogan, can carry a Colt Anaconda that way, but. You would say anyway.
Yeah. I've actually found I had a rule lawyer in one of my most recent games, and the best way to deal with him, I thought, was instead of it being a pain in the butt, I would just have him remember all the grapple rules and all the obnoxious rules that I, as a DM, don't have time or any interest in learning. So then he became my portable rule book, which was great. So kind of working around that, you know.
Yeah, and he's got a built-in search function that's better than anything else. So.
Yeah.
I actually had a rule lawyer come into one of my groups very early on when we were kind of in the process of transferring from mainly screwing around and patting ourselves on the back because we played characters with big swords and big guns, and yeah, we were so manly and so strong. And right in the transition of doing that to, well, really role-playing and really playing interesting characters, really telling interesting stories, and be a little more professional, so to speak. And
from yesterday, yeah?
Yeah, no, the day before yesterday, actually. No, so I'm still in the process, and we are not there. Yeah, well, he actually helped us improve our game a lot, or well, we enjoyed our games a lot after that. But he was a really bad rule lawyer, and it really happened that he was sitting there with a rule book and like a parody of himself, pointing out rules to the game master. No, it's like this and that, and for minor things that really didn't matter at all. And so I'm personally a game master who likes to stick to the rules, and I also like if game masters, and I'm using the terms game masters and dungeon masters exchangeably here. I think I've said that on the last hangout. I'm not a D&D fan, so I don't use the term dungeon master because I don't really like D&D that much, but it's okay. So game master, dungeon master, same thing. I like to stick to the rules, and I like people to stick to the rules because my general credo kind of is that rules in the gaming world are a little bit like rules of nature in the real world. And those just don't change like that. And so to give everybody a framework to work in, you pretty much have to stick to the rules to a large degree. But having to point out rules to everybody and not just say, I think this is not in the rules actually, but if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm just saying it's different, and maybe we run into some complications here. But really going like, this is the rules, and you have to do it like that, and everything like that. pretty much points to, well, how to put it nicely, someone who's socially inept a little bit, maybe. And I've heard that happens with geeks sometimes. So my thesis is that rule lawyers have problems communicating in socially acceptable ways, and that's why they are rule lawyers. Any thoughts on that?
I could not disagree.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know that it means that they lack certain social skills because they want to stick by the rules. Not that I'm probably the least opposite of a rule lawyer for Dungeon Master possible. But I also understand when people come in, they're playing a game. And when you play chess, I can't just arbitrarily decide to move my pawn across the board immediately. You have certain steps you can make, and you have kind of an understanding when you go into something what's happening and what can and can't happen.
Well, I can say that with a rules lawyer, it's not necessarily the fact that they are trying to stick with the rules, because while we're playing a game, we're supposed to stick with the rules as much as possible. What it comes into, and where a rules lawyer becomes an issue, is that they use the rules to disrupt the game. And then it becomes a debate of which rule trumps which rule, and the rules become more important than the story and just having fun. And the way you really have to deal with it, you have to cut that off right away. Now, it doesn't mean that the rule's gone, like in my example where I scratched off the rule. For that session, it was gone. Okay, I will review the rule later and decide whether or not it should still be in there at a later date, but at that point, it's gone just to cut the argument. And that way we can continue going, keep the game going, have the story, and have everyone have fun.
Yeah, I myself prefer fun and game before rules. Also, we in Germany have the problem that some people play with the translated German rules, and some people play with the original English rules. And there are, especially by a board game named Battletech, I think you all know it, there are many differences. And when there is someone who can better speak English or better read English, I have seen some people interpret the rules for their own advantage, and that's a little bit sad.
Yeah, the thing with Battletech is it's way more competitive than role-playing games are. So
yeah.
I think it's a really foul move to manipulate the rules in your favor with a game like that. But I think it's also a problem if you've got like different ratas worked into the rules or not, so that the rules actually do contradict each other. But I think that's actually a whole different topic, basically. I think the really important part about everything we are talking about, especially the power gaming too, is that it disrupts the game and that it makes it less fun for everybody to have a rule discussion instead of a game.
Well, I guess what I've seen is that a lot of the rules lawyers, and then going into the power gamers as well, are it's a different perspective. Whereas you have some players that play more for the role playing, others are more for the game. And so on the one hand, you're trying to work with the DM to tell a story. On the other, you're trying to beat the DM. And the DM isn't more an antagonist. And that might kind of tip the scales on where someone will land on that.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And what I always try to do as a game master, as a general philosophy, is to be a player who has got a different task to fulfill. But basically, as a game master, I see myself as a player who has got different rights in the storytelling. But and that's why I think I should stick to the rules as far as it makes sense. In cases where there are always cases where certain rules don't make sense or don't apply or shouldn't apply, and well, the rules lawyering and rule discussions generally come in these gray areas. Does this rule apply or does it not apply? That's the main issue there. Okay, so have you rule lawyered somebody in the past? Be honest. I know I have.
I think I'll rules lawyer to strike back against the rules lawyer.
Oh yeah.
But never sat back and decided like, well, I'm going to hold to this rule because it's going to make it work out better for me. You know, usually just roll with the punches and hope for the best. So.
I know I have brought up rules that were ignored or forgotten at times, but I always try to present it as, you know, wouldn't this rule apply in this case, as opposed to saying we must follow this rule, no holds barred kind of thing. And it's like I really, in those kind of situations, I try to present it as a I'm helping the DM as opposed to I'm trying to fight against the DM kind of situation, where when I've dealt with rules lawyers in the past, they've always been confrontational, trying to say, no, that doesn't work that way because it's got to go this way kind of thing.
Was that appreciated by the game master?
In a lot of cases, and it's like sometimes they'll look at it and says, no, I don't want to deal with that at this time, or I don't want to, I don't think that'll apply here, or whatever the case. In some cases, they go, oh, that's really a good idea. Let's put that in place now. You know, so it goes both ways. But because I'm not going at it confrontational and saying you must do this, they're usually very appreciative, and you know, actually at that point they start bouncing ideas off of me and asking my opinion on things, as opposed to just, you know, running the game straight out, and then I end up being kind of like a helper or something like that.
I'm not sure if Lucas will agree or disagree with me here, but I try to do the same thing because I think I'm actually game mastering more than I'm playing, and that usually means that I know the rules a little better than most people, whatever system we do play in, if it's a system that I've played before, that I've game mastered before. And I also try the same thing. I try to bring up rules that would apply and point them out, but not in a confrontative way in any way.
Yeah, that's right. I myself really seldom discuss the rules in the play, at the role play. By board games, it's another issue. But I don't really discuss with the GM about rules, I think. You may correct me, but I think not.
No. You never discussed any rules with me, at least. Well, but for me, it's basically not a table flip thing, but a vote with your wallet thing. If a game master starts to change the rules to, well, what they usually say is to make the story work or something like that, and they throw out rules arbitrarily, throw out rules one night, and maybe 2 hours later it's there again, and you have to stick to that rule by all means. I usually walk out of those groups, and that's basically it. So.
The same thing will I do, but I have a real small circle of GMs with whom I gamed, so I never had this issue.
I think we've discussed the rules lawyering enough now. Any other opinions there? Or any points you want to make? Right. We've got a viewer question that has nothing to do with the thing really, but I think we should address that briefly. It's more for me and Lucas. I have a question for the bilingual guests. Have you ever had an issue with the rules being changed due to translation errors? Yes, often. And not only translation errors, but especially in Shadowrun, the German distributor actually changed rules, and they usually made it pretty clear that they changed rules from the English original. And at least for my taste, for a while, the German rules were actually better in some cases. Usually because they came out later, so they could work in some errata, and they could also make changes that proved necessary, maybe. But yeah, there have been translation errors far and wide.
Yeah, a
We've
lot.
had that problem. We do have that problem a lot. I actually resorted to just getting the English rule books because I don't really have a problem with using the English rule books, and they are oftentimes cheaper, not always, but often. Shadowrun 5 being the big exception here. And they are also out a lot earlier because they don't have to be translated and all of that, and there's no legal bullshit going on between the publishers. And okay, so I think we've answered that questions. Lucas, anything else to add to that?
I personally stick mostly to the German translation because, especially in rule texts, I prefer my birth language. Even if I read a lot of English texts and watch many English TV, but in rule texts, I prefer German.
Fair enough. Okay, let's get to the next thing, Munchkins and Power Gamers. Any good stories concerning that? I've got one to start with, if you need a moment to think about it. A friend of mine and I were on a convention, the RatCon. Back then it was in Dortmund, now it's in Unna. And it was Shadowrun 3, I guess, that was mainly played there, at least by us. And so we met a young group of rather young players, male and female players, who actually had their character name, which was most often also their forum handle. And I'm a professional or something on their t-shirts, and also a power gamer on the back, kind of as a headline and something. And they were really out and proud power gamers, and we are power gamers, and you just don't know the rules, and that's like that. And we actually tried to explain to them, to a few of them, that there's nothing bad with making a really good character and knowing the rules and applying them, but there is everything bad if you start to min-max your character, to put some stats really, really low and to raise others really, really high. If it creates an unbalanced character, that is simply not realistic. I know, fantasy world and all of that, but you don't really find someone who is has been in the military and is a soldier of fortune now and going in Shadowruns and whatnot, and has gone through all kind of bull crap, and have that story just to justify all these fighting skills, but then lowering your willpower to a point where it's, well, yeah, okay, so if it's cold, you're bitchy, and if it's raining, you don't go on the mission because it's raining, you could get wet. And stuff like that. So yeah, well, how do I need more willpower? I'm no mage anyways, and if you're out in the field, the mage will protect me from magic, so I don't need any willpower, so I will lower that stat. And that's the point where I really take objection, where I really have an issue with that. And we try to explain that to them. And the funniest part was actually they weren't really listening to us, and they were, yeah, you just don't know the rules, and yeah, I've got the sniper character who's like, got like 8 dice, and we looked at each other, just 8 dice? I think 6 was the maximum back then. And then we both, taking turns, explained how to make a start character that has, I think, 15 or 16 dice for his sniper skill. And nothing else, but just this one skill. And after that, they were actually listening because they had found their masters. And figured out that we probably had something to say there, right? I think we converted them a little bit.
Very good. I actually the rules lawyer I spoke about before was also a munchkin, but not just on a character scale, but on like a party scale. I tend to DM for new players. Each game that I run usually has like at least 2 people that have never played before. And so when we're playing, when we're making characters, he's telling all of the players what they have to play in order to fit a certain party balance. The whole time, like, no, play what you want, have fun. Then when we're in encounters, rather than just playing, of course, his wizard, he's telling all the players, like, all right, everybody needs to go here, here, here. I'm going to do this here. We're going to do this, and then we'll win. And it becomes incredibly frustrating for me, like watching it, seeing the people who were excited to start playing being, I guess, second-hand munchkin, and just very, very slowly losing any will to keep going because they're not doing anything really.
Yeah, I think that ties back into what we said first. It's okay to know the rules and to apply the rules, but it stops being okay when you are taking the fun away.
Yeah.
It's like play your own character, not everyone else's. Let them play their character.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a whole different issue we will maybe get to after this point, I think. Let's play it. Let's say it. Puppet Masters.
I like that. The DM and the PM.
Yeah. We have in our Shadowrun round a guy who plays high power, he said. Maximum skills. No, I don't mean you.
No, I know. I know who you're talking about very well, I guess.
Attributes, one high, one low, and min-max to the maximum.
The whole 9 yards, yeah.
Yeah, and then he decide he want to GM. Okay, we play a street level. You get so-and-so points for building a character, and yeah. So I made the observation that munchkins or power gamers don't like the group power gaming when they are game mastering.
I actually have 2 things to bring up with power gamers and such. The first one is a person. It's actually the worst case scenario where you have a power gamer and he's the GM.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And while we're running an adventure and such, he has to bring in his personal player character that he has been playing for ages and power gaming with, and maxed out to the point where the rules no longer apply to him, and has to insist that the entire storyline centers around his character, and that doesn't go very well. Not at all. You end up with a bunch of players just being coming in there to watch his character do stuff.
I've got an even worse case scenario. One of the guys I was talking about in my story actually was a game master too, and he brought in his high power gaming next characters as the opposition. And he actually, now that I wrote it down, I remember it. He actually called his character Puppet Master because he had some skill really, really high where he could make people do things, other characters and other NPCs do things that they didn't want to do. And so this whole Shadowrun, it was a trap to begin with, and you could smell the trap as a gamer and as a character because it was really set up badly. And well, a friend of mine and I actually dropped out of the game because we said, no, our characters are not going to do that. This is a trap. We are going to get effed in the B here, and we are out of here. our characters are out. And so he took us aside and he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, it is a trap, but you could have played along, but well, it's not that bad. As soon as you will go in there, Puppet Master will grab all of you, and this and that will happen, and he had this all planned out, and yeah, so railroading, power gaming, being a dick, all in one.
Just the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the best thing is the webmaster for the publisher back then, who was also running the convention, took a photo right in the moment where we were standing there, kind of looking really, really pissed at him, and he put that photo on the homepage, and the text he wrote said something like, "They were playing happy everywhere." And so he must have catched some of our conversation there, because we were not happy campers at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry, I interrupted you.
Told our new game master has the idea that one of his old high power characters also showed up at the site. Our whole group was imprisoned, and we were tortured for information. And after we got out, we decide we kill the man who tortured us. I don't know what our GM thought about, but we heard a few days later, or our characters heard a few days later, that one guy killed the torturer, and we found out it was his old character who got a job from we don't know to kill this man, and it isn't fun.
It's always great if you're just a passenger in your own adventure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I will say, oh sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I was just say, in defense of like the min-maxers and power gamers, I found the only real issue I've ever had with it is when it's their approach to it. Because I've had tons of players who make like very specific optimized characters, but it makes sense in the whole setting. Like there's a reason why the character has a low will score but is very good at other things, or why the character is super charismatic or is dumb as a brick, but like it makes sense in the context. I think it's just when you get the players that core game and expect that because they can do these amazing things, they're invulnerable, and then you find a way to work around it, and it just shuts everything down, for them at least.
I actually have a thing that I've done actually a number of times on at least 3 different characters, where going with the min-max idea, except I reverse it. And instead of having like the primary stats be the maximum that they can be, those are the worst scores I have to put in there. You know, just the bare minimum to squeak by for that class, and I'll put the really high scores in throwaway skills or stats that mean nothing to the character, just for the interest of seeing how the character would play out. And it actually turns out to be quite a bit of fun, you know, where you're supposed to be like this really powerful whatever, and you have such difficulty performing the things that you're supposed to do, but yet as a role play aspect, the other stats make a lot more sense, and they come into a lot more fun as in the role playing settings. Just in fights, you kind of suck.
Yeah. No, actually, I've found kind of on that line, I always like, especially with new players, giving them the, at least in D&D and Pathfinder stuff terms, the standard array. So they have to start with a stat that's a negative, because then they have to kind of, it gives them a challenge. So you don't just have all of your stats are good. And it gets them creative, it gets them thinking about ways to work around it, or ways to have it make sense for their character, why you would have an 8 constitution and be in combat at all. So.
Yeah. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with GURPS, and what GURPS does is to really get good stats, you need a lot of disadvantages and pretty high disadvantages. And many of those disadvantages, they all have some rules attached to them. So if you are whatever, if you've got a social disability of any kind, it will make your roles to convince others or your acting roles or whatever a little more difficult. But the main component is oftentimes one-to roleplay, and so with that, it's always this balance that you can actually make a really interesting character by giving him or her the really, you can play beast and everything, so giving the character really bad disadvantages, which make the character kind of interesting, but also getting points for that and making you able to funnel that into good attributes or whatever. So that's a really interesting thing to do, and I think that's the way we should approach character building. Build an interesting character that can live up to what the game world and the others expect from the character. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, let's say I agree. I always find the characters come out the best when you, instead of showing players like rulebooks, say there's like, what do you want to play? If you were in this big overarching fantasy world, what would you want to do? Would you want to be a knight? Would you want to be a wizard? Would you want to do anything? Don't even think about classes. Don't think about numbers. Don't think about anything. Just what is interesting. And it usually works out better that way.
Yep. The numbers will come. The rest of it will just come. Just play what you think is interesting to you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then you can change things later if you want to, but initially start out with, you just play what you want, and we'll give you a sheet of paper that has all the numbers on it for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I've actually found that it makes character creation so much easier if you've got your character outlined or even worked out how you want to play the character in advance. Because you don't really, you get so easily distracted, especially with relatively free systems where you don't have character classes or anything like that. So you're like, well, I could actually take this skill, but it would only make sense if I want to take this advantage. And so I could combine that with that, and I've got a really good mix there if I take this in, and oh my god, I'm 200 points over. So if you've worked out in advance what you want to play, then. Having said all that, I actually have to admit I'm a dirty power gamer myself.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Lucas would have pointed that out at one point or the other. We actually do have a group where we play cop characters or police characters, and since I knew the system best, I was asked by the other players a lot, and so I had my fingers a little bit into every character. And I think I get called names on a regular basis every game night by Lucas, who's game mastering there. Because things like GURPS, with GURPS you roll 3d6 and have to get under your skill. And it oftentimes happens that he asks for a skill and, well, it's 21. It's what? And for things like detect lies and intimidation and, well, which is, if you're playing undercover cops, actually a really good stat to have.
Yeah. Made things pretty tough sometimes, but I get the group to break the rules.
Yeah, you got that pretty good. And I think that's another thing. I think a good game master should actually be able to deal with characters like that. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. If you min-max a character to some point, that actually makes it pretty hard to play, and that also makes it pretty hard to game master for the character. I've had one instance where I played an assassin, and he was really good with knives. And the whole character was, at least the combat part of the character, was built around the idea that I need to be able to kill someone with one knife strike. So I had this whole chain of events set up. So I have to roll for a stealth, so I need a high stealth skill. I have to attack him from behind, so I need something to get behind people, so I can scale walls and stuff like that to get behind people. Then I need a really high skill because I have to aim for the neck to make enough damage and all of this. But that's basically what an assassin would be trained in. So it really makes sense to build the character in that way. And after I've killed a whole lot of NPCs in one setting, the Game Master got a little angry with me, and so one of the NPCs didn't get killed on first strike, and he actually turned around and hit my character, and I just dropped down and was almost dead. Simply because, yeah, my character was really, really good at killing people, at one-hitting people, but if that works, you don't really need to be good at absorbing damage or anything like that, or dodging or all that crap. Who needs it?
Right. Oh, if they're dead, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. So as a game master, you have to be really careful and look into the character really good and look into the concept of the character really good to avoid things like that, because that was definitely not what he had planned. He actually thought I had power gamed my character or pimped my character out so good that it wouldn't really matter. He just wanted to get one strike, and well, that was all he needed, it turned out.
Right.
Anything like that happened to one of you where you misjudged what a player was doing there, or where something like that happened when you built a character?
Thank you.
Okay, not really, I see.
No, not really.
Yes. I really got killed pretty much in a lot of systems, in Earthdawn, in D&D, in Shadowrun, because my fucking dice say fuck you to me. But that's not the fault of the game master or my fault, I think.
You bought
Actually,
the dice. So.
I actually thought of one. It's that didn't come to mind right away because, well, let's get to the point. The game system was Rifts, and the character class was a Glitter Boy. Now, the Glitter Boy character class is actually, without actually trying to min-max or anything like that, is already min-maxed. While you're in your power armor suit and such like that, you're virtually invulnerable and you do damage that will decimate just about everything. But if for some reason you get caught without your suit, you get squished real easy. And played one of those characters, and it's like the character became so paranoid that he would not leave his suit for any reason whatsoever, and spent... You know, it was just a big nightmare as far as the character was going. And it's like things were doing damage. Well, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. They have a term called mega damage. It's like mega damage. 1 point of mega damage is like 1,000 hit points. Yeah. And they're doing like 3d6 mega damage on these rolls and such. It's just ridiculous amounts of damage flying around, and it's like it's just a normal guy in a power suit.
It's Tony Stark.
Yeah, but the thing is, the whole world's built around that, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
I think my first brush with dealing with a mega power gamer it was on the game I cut my teeth on as a DM, which is this old Marvel Universe role-playing game that came out maybe around the early 2000s. It was no dice. It was all like resource allocation, and there was a very, very easy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's old and was canceled within like 2 or 3 years. But it's very easy to work the system that you don't have to put in any actual resources to get resources. So I had one player in my game who was basically able to maintain almost impenetrable defenses and an equal amount of offenses at the same time without ever running out of any energy or resources, which then, as a DM for the first time, you start trying to match fire with fire, but then you find every other player is just getting so destroyed because now you have this one thing that creates a threat for the Munchkin character, which will then also totally steamroll every other player that built the characters more in line with what the designers were thinking people would do with the rules. So you just learn to say no, I think, is the biggest thing. Tell people no, or talk to them afterwards, and just, treat it like you're adults.
Or like their children.
That experience was in Shadowrun. I tried to mimic a character. He should be a very fast street Sam, really good at guns, good at holding damage. Okay, my problem was we have there one guy who was much faster and much worse to hit, and then we have the big fat troll. Yeah, you can miss him, but he absorbed every damage. So our GM, try the troll, try the little speedy. No effect. Lucas! Yeah.
Oh, great, yeah. You've been out-power gamed on both fields, kind of. Yeah, and I think that what Scuba just said happens a lot, and I think that's the major problem if you've got one power gamer in the group who's really, just as you described, who really puts everything else in the game world in its place, but that also puts the rest of the group in its place.
Yeah. There you have to, as a game master, it's like I know. You have to force the person to have some form of vulnerability there, where, they might have this great, awesome power, but they have to have some sort of weakness in there. And then as a game master, play to that weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Take advantage of it. Make it cost them.
I think the better way, actually, I agree with you, but I think the better way is actually to make them realize that it's fun, or it's more fun to play a character who's really good at one thing, but really bad at another thing, and to make that complement each other. So I think really stereotypical advantages are the big strong guy who has a weakness for children, and who's a real badass, but as soon as children are involved, he's really nice and drops his own whole mask and something like that. Or characters like who are incredibly good fighters, for example, but then are extremely gullible when it comes to social things, or are really just socially inept, or just don't. If you've been a military professional and a soldier of fortune and whatnot, a mercenary for your whole life, you probably won't really work at some kind of function or a ball or whatever. And to give people the chance to play their characters in situations where they are not that good, I think actually is a good way to convert them to quit their power gaming ways.
Right.
Don't take this the special force guy and make him customer service.
Although it would probably make for a pretty interesting session if they if the group of secret agents had to go undercover in a grocery store as clerks.
Or a kindergarten. I think we could make a movie out of that or two.
We should call it
Kindergarten Cop, huh?
It's a good idea. I like it.
What was the one with Vin Diesel called? The Baby Nator or something?
Oh, what was it? He was the Tooth Fairy, I think, was a movie he did. But I think there was another one.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger did Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there is actually a movie with pretty much the same idea with Vin Diesel. So.
That's a good idea. Why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just ship it out 20 years later.
Yeah, but one problem I see with such thing is I know some people who are really fast talkers in the real world, and then in roleplay they build characters who are tough fighters and so on, and
Save the points. Save the points for social skills since they have them in real life.
Because they can outtalk the GM.
Yeah.
And
That's a whole different kind of beast. It's also power gamer, but I call foul on that.
Well, it's like power gaming and metagaming, and it's all of the worst. I find if you have someone like who's really smart or is a very fast talker and their character's not, and they're trying to pull one over on you, I just make them roll. And if they have like a -4 to their charisma, with it, no matter how good it is, people just won't believe them for some reason. They won't take them seriously because maybe they just sound like an idiot when they're talking, or they just think like, this guy's a big dumb brute, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and they're just going to let him not pay attention.
Yeah. They could even be telling the truth and they won't believe them.
Yeah.
And that's why I always let people roll for things like that. So if we will play out the whole scene, and we will get to the point where I ask myself the question, okay, do I believe that? And that's the point where they have to roll. And of course, I modify the roll if they played it out well. Okay, great. I will let them off the hook there a little bit, but they have to roll. And if they don't have the skill, bad luck for you.
Yeah. I do with that, though, I try not to penalize players for coming up with lame things, as long as it seems like they're trying.
Yeah.
Like, if they're putting forth an effort to come up with a bluff that is maybe not, wouldn't be credible, but they rolled well, and this is a player who maybe hasn't role-played for the past 5 sessions, and they're finally coming out, cut them a little slack, let them do it. But I guess that goes back to that's rules lawyering versus letting the game actually be interesting for everybody that's involved.
Well, you can take what they're saying and throw a spin on it and how the character would actually say it, as opposed to what they're saying. Because the character may be a lot more talented with their words than, say, the player. So.
Right.
Yeah, I just saw that the feed crashed. It says we are experiencing technical difficulties, but I will just let you know that, and we will carry on because I don't really know what else to do. I hope at least the recording will be fine. So well, okay, let's still go on. Damn it. Okay. Sorry, I was a little distracted by that. Yeah, really. Okay. Yeah, I'm back on track now. So, do we want to move on to puppet masters? People who not only play their character and maybe try to play the GM, but who also try to play the other players or play the other characters?
I think I've actually been guilty of that recently. And it's not really that I've been trying to play the other characters, it's that person, okay, game situation, I'm playing a mage. I've really skilled at playing a mage. And I got a new person come in, hasn't really played the game before, does not know the character class at all to speak of, and decides that he wants to play a mage. Well, I find myself coaching him on a regular basis, as opposed, I try not to tell him what to do, but I give him suggestions of what I would do, and see, it's up to him to take it or not. And he seems to take it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just continue doing that, and it's, I don't know. Sometimes I feel bad about it, and sometimes it's like I'm trying to keep him from doing something stupid, like blow up the party. So, go ahead.
And Lucas will tell you that I am guilty of that sometimes too.
Yeah, last time at a Western shootout.
Actually caught me out on that, yeah.
Yeah. He and another guy were fighting some bank robbers, and then he began to tell the other guy who he should move, so that they can work effectively or don't get in the precise shooting range.
Line of fire.
Right. None of fire, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, well, we could do this and that, and I would move over here to do this, and you could maybe try that. And he was like, yeah, and you could maybe try to let him play his character. I was like, damn it, caught again.
Yeah.
Well, there is a thing called teamwork too. It's like the players need to be able to work together as a team so they complement one another. But there is a limit to how far you can do. It's like to suggest something to somebody is different than to tell them to do this. And as long as you keep it as a suggestion, they still have the choice of whether or not they want to do that or they want to do something else.
Yeah, but especially in a combat situation where the characters have
no chance to communicate that.
Well, talking is a free action, so they could recite Shakespeare in a matter of 6 seconds. So, you know.
Yeah, in most cases, yeah.
It's in the rules.
Yeah.
I think Shadowrun actually states how many words you can say.
Wow.
Things happen like, well, get over there and place the explosives is one word, isn't it?
I know in one of my Mutants and Masterminds games, we got around that because one of the players was a telepath, and so just before every, like basically whenever they went out on missions, would just get everybody linked together so they could just send their thoughts to each other, and it worked, and it was fine. And then,
yes, but it don't work at Western.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
In the town in Georgia at 2000.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, well, I think it's okay to do this kind of thing in a setting where your characters are all trained professionals in whatever, and the players aren't. So if you have trained together for a lot, and that's something where I, as the game master, actually try to honor good role playing or good preparation. If they say, okay, we are going to raid this house, so we will build a mock-up on the floor of like Ocean's 11 style on the floor of some warehouse with tape, and we will try out the whole thing and go through the motions and stuff like that. And characters, or if players actually do that and characters make their characters do that, I actually give them the chance to do stuff like that, to be like in the combat situation where they have no means of communication or simply not fast enough means of communication, to say, well, we did train that differently, and training you went over there. And they, oh yeah, my character does remember that. Yeah, your character remembers that.
I think Star Wars Saga Edition did a really good job of handling these kinds of situations, because there are a good number of classes that actually have builds based around tactical work and like rolling knowledge checks for tactics to be able to give your players advantages, being able to move the other characters, being able to work around that. So it almost becomes a point where it encourages more of this teamwork between the players, because it's not just this player saying like, here, you should move there. But it's like, you do what you're going to do, and then on my turn, I'm going to help you out so you can go do something like that over there faster. And it kind of gets it into that dialogue. And I think the dialogue is what's important, now that I say that, because it's the give and take. It's not one player constantly running the encounter. It's the players are kind of working with each other to find out how to best put the puzzle pieces together.
And I'll jump in here with a quick technical thing. I just realized, or was informed, that the feed crashed in between. I think I know I mentioned that to you other guys here, but the feed seems to be back. So everybody watching live, I'm sorry. I really don't know what happened there. I just saw it on my second screen here too. If I really hope the part where that was missing live will be in the archived version, so maybe go back and watch it there. I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about that. I'm not a game master in the real world, contrary to what you saw in the last episode. Scuba, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. It's about playing with the others and not playing the others.
Yeah.
And that's with all these, and I think we could the overarching theme of this episode is player types that are dicks. Or something like that. So kinds of players that really break the game one way or another, or make it hard to enjoy the game for others, and that's the real issue. The real issue is making the game less fun than it could be by, well, power gaming, rules lawyering, puppeteering. We should really make the term, because it happens a lot.
Spread it all over the message boards on the internet. It'll be new. We started it right here, so everybody can say it was in this chat where it happened.
That would be really great, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So we just passed the 1 hour mark, and that's usually what we aim for here. But I'm not in a hurry, really. So any good stories you remember from the last time that came to your mind in the process? Points you didn't want to make because we were talking about something else? Anything like that? Anybody? Any ideas? Anybody? Or everything said and done?
Well, we could always mention the player that doesn't really know their class and likes to blow up the party. Setting off spells that would just area effects in the middle of the party and would take out like 1 or 2 of the opponents and 5 of the party members.
Yep.
Oh, God.
We actually talked about player versus player in the last episode, I guess.
The worst thing.
Not intentional, though. But go ahead.
No, that's it. It's the worst thing. It creates the least group dynamic when you have players that are going to fight each other. And actually, the same rules lawyer munchkin wizard that I was talking about before was also very close to killing one of our players because he made a bad play. And it into that theme. Don't be a jerk. Let everybody have fun. So.
Yeah, I will stick to that, but sometimes I, as player, makes an experience. I have shortly decided to kill another character. I have to work the plan out, and so it's not happened until yet.
I think we already talked about the plan. I think we already talked about it. It involves an anti-personal mine and a cast seat.
No, it's inverse 5 anti-personal.
just to make sure.
It's a troll to kill.
Yeah, and after all, you do know the rules.
Yeah. So sometimes there's a point where you, as a player, especially can't let something happen to your character. So when someone of the group with his character piss off your character, and you are a street-level Shadowrunner who knows it's a law of the jungle, yeah, you as the fittest win. Sometimes you have to decide it's enough. You have to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really don't know how the player will react.
And you also have to defend your character from the game master sometimes, and who lawyer him a little bit to defend your character. Okay, great. So to sum it up a little bit, as Scuba said, don't be a dick. Or don't be a jerk, I think was what you said. So
same thing.
Great. So that's that for this episode. We will bring the next episode to you at the end of next month. I will announce the exact date within the week, I guess. And the topic of the next game, the topic of the next show will be from house rules to building your own system, how to get nitty-gritty with statistics and stuff like that. So if any of you gentlemen is interested in joining that hangout, just let me know after the show. And everybody else out there, if you're interested in being there, drop me a line on G+ or on Twitter. I'm Evil Dan Wallace, at Evil Dan Wallace on Twitter, and you can contact me on G+. I'm also Daniel Wallace there, or over the All for Geek Alliance. That's the channel you're on right now. I will obviously check the comments and all of that. Gentlemen, anything you want to plug? Where can people reach you on social media if they want to, and if you want to? Things to plug or anything. Scuba.
Well,
I know you've got something.
I do. I'm in an a cappella group on YouTube, and we sing nerdy songs. We're actually doing every weekend this summer. We're doing cartoon themed songs. So if you look us up, we're the letters FKDS official for YouTube, or FKDS acapella at Twitter. So I'll actually, after this, I'll be tweeting at Dan. So maybe you'll see our channel on there. And check us out. You know, we're still new. We're trying to build up our base. So if you like what we do, let us know.
And I'm a real fan. It's really amazing, and it has put more than one smile on my face to watch it.
Thank you. Actually, sorry. Yeah, we're actually going to start a tabletop gaming thing in the next few weeks on there as well. I'm going to be talking about DMing a personal game that I'm starting in a few weeks. So if you like that stuff, maybe you check back in July, and you could see that too.
Great.
And that's all.
Anything you want to plug? Anything where people can get in contact with you?
Well, you can get a hold of me via Twitter at ZaphodM2. It's ZAPHOD M2. And I really don't have anything else to promote at this point, but if anyone needs to get a hold of me, that's where you get me.
Great. I've got the feeling I will contact you again to be on the show. All of you, actually. Colin Cunningham, anything you want to plug? Other than come to the German National Championships of Battletech on the RatCon in Unna.
Yeah. In the beginning of August in Unna, there are the German Championships of Battletech. We, the 5th Sirtis Fusiliers, are running the show, and we run our own convention in Germany near Göttingen at the end of November.
The Kittery.
Yes, the KitteryCon. You can find us on new-sirtis.de, I think. Or maybe we have another... Look after Sirtis Fusiliers at Google or contact me via Google+.
Great. Okay, and you are Lucas Cunningham on Google+.
I think so.
I would try to remember to put all of that in the doodly-doo under this video, but I will probably forget, so sorry. Great. As I said, great show. Thank you very much for being here, and I will see all of you out there next month. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Yeah.